Okay, so let me share a quick story with you about how I bought a property for $25,000 and sold it for $88,000 a year later. Okay, so a guy that I knew had purchased the property and he'd spent some money on renovating it, and then he put two tenants in there. And this was a duplex, so it was a side-by-side, like a ranch home, and there were actually two brothers that were living in either side. And what he'd done was he'd put them in there after renovating the property, and then a month later, for whatever reason, he decided to sell the property. And he decided to sell it to a lady that asked him if she could have the property vacant. In other words, if she could have no tenants in the property. The challenge was that he had put them in there, I think it was December at the time, or November that he put them in, and then he wrote them a lease for 1 year for either side, and then he told them a month later, hey, you have to leave because I'm selling. And they got really upset. And their mother was actually a lawyer or a real estate agent or something like that, or some professional services. And so she threatened to sue. And because she threatened to sue, the owner panicked. Now, he had sold it to this lady for, I think it was $45,000 or thereabouts, right? About $45,000, $44,000. And so this property, I mean, this wasn't a great neighborhood. So you got to understand there's a lot more that comes with it. But the point is, that's what he was trying to sell it for. So he called me because he knew that I was buying houses in the area. And he said, hey, I've got this property for you. I'm going to sell it to you for about $44,000, $45,000, something like that. And, I got to talking to him. I understood the situation. Anyway, long story short, I negotiated with him and I bought that property for $25,500. But here was the risk, okay? Because I was taking over the property, there was potentially going to be an active lawsuit in that property. And because there was an active lawsuit, I could lose the property. I mean, if something was to go wrong, if those people were going to take me to court, if something was going to happen in the midst of all this, I could lose the property. So I was risking effectively $25,000. But I knew that that property was worth at least $50,000 if it was looked after. So here's what I did. I set up a separate LLC. I had multiple LLCs for other properties that I had, but I set up a completely separate LLC. And I put this property just in that LLC so that if anything was to happen and I was to be sued, I wouldn't lose any of my other assets. So I put this property in an LLC and I bought it for $25,500. And then the first thing that I did is I called up the tenants and I said, hey, I'm coming in town, because this was out of town. I didn't live in this area. And I said, hey, I'm coming to town. Can we have a chat? And what I did is I went and bought a 6-pack of beers, because again, this is, so it was a low income, blue collar sort of area. So I went and bought a 6-pack of beers. And I just took them to the property. And I sat on the front lawn with these two brothers and I just talked to them, just one-to-one. Like, hey guys, look, I'm the new owner. I bought the property. I know you guys have had some issues with this guy. I understand that that's challenging for you. But look, I'm not like that, right? I'm here to help you. I want you guys to have a great place. We drank a beer on the front lawn. We got on really well. And, I owned that property for about 18 months or so, maybe a little bit under. Didn't put any money into it. And I sold it after that for $88,000. And so the lesson in all this is, yes, there's risk when you buy a property that's under a cloud or under a bit of a situation. But if you manage it effectively, if you treat people well, if you meet them on their level, you can really profit from a bad situation that someone else has created. And so don't be afraid when there's a tenant issue or when there's an issue with a property. Don't be afraid automatically that there's going to be a major catastrophe. Take the steps to protect yourself like I did, create a new LLC or find a way around it that limits your loss if something was to happen. Because remember, risk and reward are tied at the hip, right? The more risk you take, the more reward you take. So this guy freaked out because he had a risk. And so therefore he sold the property at a loss. I bought it cheaper knowing that I was taking a risk, but I knew that the upside would also be significant. And so this is just a quick story to share how you can find ways to make a good situation out of a bad one if you take the time to get to know the tenants, meet them on their level, establish a great relationship, and then find ways to monetize that situation. So hopefully this helps you, just gives you an idea of how to deal with this stuff. See you next time.